Tucked away in a quiet corner of the Suffolk coast is one of the country's best-kept secrets, Orford Ness. This 10-mile-long vegetated shingle spit runs from Slaughton, just south of Aldeburgh in the north, to Shingle Street in the south. Wild, remote and exposed, Orford Ness has a long natural history going back thousands of years, but in more recent times it was used for 80 years as a top-secret military test centre, from the First World War through the Second World War to the Cold War, where weapons, including elements of Britain's first nuclear bomb, were tested. Orford Ness was sold to the National Trust in 1993 and opened to the public in 1995. Today, the island, as it's known locally, has a far more tranquil feel to it. While much of its former wartime infrastructure no longer survives, key buildings remain to keep an insight into a fascinating past, while other buildings are being allowed to return slowly to nature. Ranked among the most important shingle features in the world, rare and fragile wildlife thrives where weapons were once tested and perfected. These days, visitors to Orford Ness are more likely to encounter waterfowl, brown hares and Chinese water deer than engineers and scientists. Orford Ness currently has 3 walks for visitors. The main red route of 5 miles that leads through coastal grazing marshes and vegetated shingle to the sea, with 2 shorter routes open seasonally after ground nesting birds have fledged. It's a peaceful place, desolate and yet teeming with life. A small team of dedicated staff and volunteers look after this unique landscape, which each day brings new challenges to those who tend its fragile infrastructure and the flora and fauna that has reasserted itself over the last quarter of a century. Visitors are welcome on open days via the National Trust ferry from Orford Quay, but are required to stick to the designated paths. The rare vegetated ridges are home to fragile plant life. Even a single footstep can destroy the shingle structures forever. There are areas in which the site's military past may still lurk beneath its surface.
Orford Ness is a location shaped by change. Both natural and man-made forces have shaped the landscape over centuries. What was used for 80 years as a top-secret military test site has also been shaped by natural forces. It's a coastline that is constantly changing from longshore drift and coastal erosion. The coastline erodes in places and builds in others, and that's really shaped the Ness. And it's that constant state of flux that you can see when you visit Orford Ness today. As you begin your walk through what were airfields nearly 80 years ago, at the start of the First World War, and are now home to migratory birds and wetland birds, it's really difficult to comprehend what went on in its man-made history. Orford Ness is unique. It's what was Suffolk's secret coast. Lots of the work that came about on Orford Ness is only now coming to the surface, and we find it's really important to be able to tell those stories to visitors. And it's also one of the few places in Suffolk where you can experience a sense of wilderness. Even on a busy day, the Ness has a sense of isolation, and you can see a couple of people on the distant horizon, but it never feels crowded. It is the place in Suffolk where you can experience Suffolk's famous big skies and a real sense of nature in its rawest elements. The weather plays a big part on the Ness, and weather can change very quickly, and the Ness changes from a gloriously sunny day to a windy and rainy day, and all of those elements really help shape and give the Ness its atmosphere. The work that took place during the military occupation of Orford Ness was of national and international importance. The buildings themselves may now be a shadow of their former selves, but they are of importance, and the curated decay that the National Trust is carrying out on the buildings has recorded its past, it's recorded the architectural interest, but it's now slowly letting those buildings return to nature. The buildings were designed for a very short lifespan, they were designed for short-term experiments, and so 50, 60 years on, those buildings are slowly returning to what was there previously, and wildlife is reclaiming it. And it's important to be able to share those stories, to record the buildings as they are, but also allow nature to slowly take back control of the Ness. One of the hardest things for visitors to sometimes understand is that shingle itself is fragile. Vegetated shingle on Orford Ness has formed over thousands of years, and just one misplaced footstep can destroy that plant structure forever, and it's a structure that doesn't come back. You can see areas where the military during the First and Second World War drove vehicles across the shingle, carried out experiments, and those bare patches are testament to how fragile the shingle is. 50, 60 plus years on, those plants have not returned. Vegetated shingle, incredibly rare in the world, and Orford Ness is recognised as the strongest example of vegetated shingle in Europe. So while it may not look fragile, just that one step off the path across the vegetated shingle can destroy centuries of plant growth. The Ness is a constantly evolving landscape, both through natural elements and man's influence on it. As we continue our work, we want to continue to share the stories of the people that worked on the Ness, its rich history, but also we'd like to encourage the wildlife to continue to thrive, and even bring back some of the species that have been disturbed over the previous decades. So we'll continue to protect what is an ever-changing coastline. We will adapt to coastal change, to rising sea levels, and the shifting nature of the Suffolk coast, and protect this really special and unique part of the Suffolk skyline.